Let me explain to you a little bit about peace studies, the perspective that peace studies takes. It's not about politics. It's not about Obama versus Romney or Clinton versus Giuliani. It's not at that level. It's about something deeper. It's about the kinds of assumptions that people on the right and the left and in between, and people who aren't interested in politics at all, about the way that they think about the world. Peace studies really took off right after World War II in the 50s and in the 60s. Particularly, of course, World War II was devastating for Europe and for Japan and for parts of Asia. The United States came out of it without much damage, of course, and became the world's only superpower. But then got in this Cold War, so-called Cold War with the Soviet Union. And quickly, both the Soviet Union and the United States adopted a policy of mutual assured destruction. This meant that both of them tried to create, and then did create, enough nuclear power to destroy not only the enemy but all of the world. And the premise was that if you bomb me, then I will bomb you so much that everyone in the world will die. And this was a doctrine of mutually assured destruction. And intelligent people, smart people, put this doctrine forward, and the American people paid for it, and the Soviet people paid for it. But a number of people, particularly in Europe, and areas that in Japan and other areas where they had no control over policy, they said, wait a second, if the Soviet Union and the United States are going to kill off everybody in the world because of their quarrel, where does that leave the rest of us? There's something mad about this. There's something crazy about this. And so Peace Studies was born to try and figure out if there was some better way to go about living than with a policy of mutual assured destruction. This little chart that actually shows you how many warheads, the pink one in the middle shows how much, if you add them together, the Soviets and the United States. The blue and purple at the bottom is only the United States, how many nuclear warheads the United States has. About 15,000, or between 10 and 15,000 in 2005, enough to kill everybody in the world. So even though the Soviet Union is gone, the weapons remain. To give you some perspective on, of course, these are not nuclear weapons or atomic weapons have killed maybe 500,000 people in Japan. But there are other things to worry about in terms of war, obviously. And this is a chart that shows that there were 150 million deaths in the 20th century, and about 66% of those, so the majority of the catastrophic, sudden kinds of death, came from war. So, again, this is part of the background for why it is that people became interested in peace studies that say, 150 million deaths. And most of these are, of course, civilian deaths. In the old days, war mostly killed combatants, but now we have wars which mostly kill civilians. So that's also become more worrisome. Not only the scale of death by war, the number of deaths by war, 150 million in the 20th century, but also that men and women are being killed, and children, and people that are not haven't signed up to fight. So as I said, the United States, after the fall of the Soviet Union, became the world's only superpower. And this is kind of a look at the empire, the American empire today. In red, you see places where the United States has military bases. This was up until 2003. Of course, there's new bases being built in Iraq and Afghanistan, which are, I guess they are marked on this. So this shows where the American empire is today. And so you may think that this is the situation that we have kind of at a permanent, this is our permanent situation to deal with, so that peace studies is kind of irrelevant. It becomes something that only has to do with the American empire. But I want to show you that, in fact, this is the British Empire just 100 years ago. which basically does not exist anymore, right? Great Britain has now gone back to Great Britain. I guess they have the Falklands as well. But everything else that's green on here, which in 1900 belonged to the British Empire, is no longer part of the British Empire. So I just want to show you this to show that things do change. Change is the rule. Change is not the exception. So this map of American empire here currently will look quite different 100 years from now, and quite different in the lifetimes of many of you people who are taking this class. So things will be changing. How they'll be changing, and if it will be for the worse or the better, that's kind of one of the things that we want to talk about in this class. And I want to keep hope alive, that showing how much death and how many nuclear weapons there are, and the dangers, and that we can get caught up in that in a kind of despair. But actually, Peace Studies has one of its premise. Let me say one thing that's not in my notes here to show you that Peace Studies is an empirical kind of study. It's not a religious-based study. It's not a faith-based study. It's not people saying, well, peace is good and war is bad. It's trying to say, is it possible for people to get what they want with less destruction and violence? And though I've talked in this little introduction more about wars, Peace Studies also has to do with domestic violence and love in the family and peace in the family and peace internally as well. As you'll see in the textbook, there's chapters about how do you get peace for the person, how do you get peace for the relationship, how do you get peace for the family, the group, the community, the state, the region. So it goes at every level. And so it's built on empirical data. It tries to be data-driven, not faith-driven, not ideological-driven. Try to make choices in terms of what the evidence shows. What does the evidence show about how to make peace? And it has the faith that more peace is possible, less war is possible, less domestic violence is possible, because it has existed in certain places. And Boulding's first law, anything that exists is possible, can be a guideline here. In other words, it's possible to have peaceful societies and peaceful relationships. We know that that is empirically true. So if that's true, how can we spread that out to more places and more people? Kenneth Boulding, one of the pioneers in peace studies, also said, we make our tools and then they shape us. And so Peace Studies is trying to get more tools, to put more tools in the hands of you and me and everyone, more tools to make peace, more tools for alternatives to violence. We don't have many of these tools. We haven't been taught many of these tools. There aren't many courses in these tools. There's a lot of courses in the university in how to compete, how to win, how to, even how to kill other people, how to join the military and prepared to kill other people. There are not a lot of courses in how to make peace and increase peace. So we make our tools and they shape us. So if we make primarily tools of thought about how to defeat other people as opposed to how to cooperate with other people, that's the world we're going to live in. So Peace Studies tries to look for more tools of cooperation to create situations in which violence is less likely to be used, under the idea that if we practice this and learn more of this, we might get a little more of it. It's not a matter in Peace Studies that they want to end conflict. They think that conflict can be ended. And we'll talk more about that when we do go on to Chapter 1. So this kind of is a very brief overview of what we'll be doing this semester.